it's almost too accepting of everything else that's going on around it, saying like, well, we all kind of believe in the same God, we just kind of get there in a different way. Like, that's fucking bullshit. All your gods are fake.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to A Conversation with Colin. I'm Greg, and this is my roommate, Colin. Now, sometimes Colin says crazy stuff, so every Tuesday and Thursday, I reach into my conversation pile, pull out a random topic that he doesn't know about, throw it at him. We talk it out here for your amusement. If you like that, like the video, subscribe to our channel, then share this video with your friends so they can be part of the conversation with Colin. Colin, are you ready?
Yes. Today's
conversation is ghosts. Submitted by Andrew Duron over in the YouTube comments below. Thank you so much.
It's an interesting topic.
It is. I've known you for many a year now, Colin Moriarty. I have no idea what your opinion is or is not on ghosts.
Okay.
So lay it out for me.
So, I want to believe in ghosts.
Yeah.
I want to believe in this supernatural element to life. I want to believe in this almost this afterlife, but it conflicts with how I feel about religion and how I feel about the afterlife, which is that I'm pretty sure that we just die and that there is no God and stuff like that. So, you know, and that's just kind of the rational person in me, almost the deist in me, of thinking that there's some sort of power, some sort of governance of the universe, much like maybe 18th century thinkers like the founders thought about the universe, that there was no God that watched over us, but there was something out there that kind of governed everything, kept things in order. But if you're a religious person, I think it actually jives pretty well with there being ghosts. I mean, you know, there are ghost stories in the Bible, technically, I guess. And,
yeah.
And you know, the person that's into the more nerdy shit that I'm into, when we're both huge nerds, I mean, we're in all those things, it seems like something natural that we would be into, but I'm kind of on the fence about it, you know what I mean? I've never had like an experience per se,
yeah.
But I've definitely been in places and been in situations where I kind of feel like there's something there.
Yeah?
You know? Yeah, for sure, but I mean, you know, there's no like specific instance that I can talk about. It's more of like a house that I go to sometimes, or a situation. I mean, my grandparents' old place in Mineola on Long Island is a good example of a place that just kind of creeped me out now. And it was after they passed away, and it was still in the family or whatever before we sold it. And whether or not it was just like me feeling like they were still there, or it was just kind of creepy, or there's just memories in that house. I mean, it's hard. It's a kind of a multifaceted issue, surprisingly, because we're talking about ghosts. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew's opened up a lot of doors for us.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to choose to go down? Why don't you believe? Why don't you believe in a God or a greater presence or something along those lines?
I think that all of the evidence points to there being no God. I mean, and I say that with heavy heart. I mean, I want there to believe, you know, something to believe in. I mean, look at it this way. If you look at things like anthropologically, if you look at things, you know, in terms of how societies around the world, separate from one another, have grown, and you know, from the diaspora have kind of ended up in different parts of the planet, but have all come to terms with the fact that whether they're polytheistic or monotheistic, of there being God or gods, it's just something that happens when a society can't explain things. And I think that that's reasonable, that's normal. Well, the sun is in the sky and then the moon comes, and you don't realize that you're on a rock in a system, in an arm of a galaxy, and the galaxies in a universe. You don't realize those things. Those are very dynamic, very, very difficult things to wrap your mind around. So it's easier to say, you know, okay, we have this sun god that rides a chariot across and then his brother or whatever, or his nemesis, depending on the religion you're looking at, I guess. A moon kind of comes into the sky and stuff like that. Like, those are the things that bring religion on, and then they just fucking never disappear. You know what I mean? If you take the Bible literally, for instance, I mean, I come from a Catholic family. I consider myself culturally Catholic.
Yeah.
But if you read the Bible literally, you know, Earth is 6,000 years old. That's fucking bullshit. Earth isn't 6,000 years old. You know, humans weren't divinely created. Humans come from an evolutionary process that has taken millions of years, hundreds of millions of years. You know, we weren't here. You know, there were dinosaurs on the Earth hundreds of millions of years ago. I mean, there's a geological record. I mean, there's a million things that point to.
But here's the thing: are you getting hung up on the religion aspect of it rather than the God aspect of it?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I think they go hand in hand, though, because wouldn't you? First of all, you know, this conversation is supposed to be about ghosts, and it kind of
whatever.
Well, but I'm just saying, a ghost suggests an afterlife. But an afterlife isn't really scientific, you know what I mean? So,
sure.
So you have to, you know, because life starts and ends with the biology of the human, or the biology of the plant or the animal, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's where it begins and that's where it ends. That's where the brainwaves turn on and they turn off. So, you know, this raises the conversation of religion and of gods, and they kind of go hand in hand. you can't have all these conflicting records of how Earth was created, when it was created, whose religion right, whose religion's wrong. It's really almost too accepting of everything else that's going on around it, saying like, well, we all kind of believe in the same God, we just kind of get there in a different way. Like, that's fucking bullshit. All your gods are fake. So, like, that's the way I look at it. And like, if you're religious, like my family's quite religious. Like, my dad is a very religious man. I respect that.
Yeah.
Whatever gives you comfort. And I hope that he's right and I'm wrong. I want to put that out there like right now. I hope he's right.
Yeah.
I'll end up in fucking purgatory probably. He'll be in heaven. And that's great. Like, he deserves it because he's very devout. He goes to church every Sunday. He reads scripture, all those things. It just doesn't jive with me. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm a man of science. I believe in science. Science and religion do not jive. Every time there's a scientific discovery of major import, it conflicts with the religious record. And all you have to do is look at things like Jesus, like the heliocentric theory was like a fucking huge deal 500 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, why is that such a big deal? The heliocentric, so Earth's not at the center of the universe. Who the fuck cares? You know what I mean? Like, the Earth goes around the sun. The sun's just a star amongst infinite amounts of stars. Who cares? I think what we need to kind of come to terms with as a people is that we are unimportant and inconsequential. And if there is a God out there, he probably doesn't know we even exist. And that if there is a God out there and he does know we exist, you have to kind of look at the planet as a pretty cruel place where bad things happen and it doesn't really make any sense. And you kind of go through trials and tribulations. You pray, but you don't get what you want. You don't pray, but you do get what you want. Like, it's whole happenstance. It's random. So that's why I don't believe in religion. I respect people that are religious. Actually, I respect religious people more than almost anything because all of the evidence points against them, and yet they still believe. They still have faith. I mean, faith is the article in which everyone points to. It's like, you have to have faith. You have to have faith. To me, faith is a crutch. To other people, faith, or really not even a crutch, but an excuse. To me, faith are those things, but to other people, faith is everything, and I respect that. But in that sense, to go back to his question,
to ghosts,
they kind of go hand in hand,
no,
right?
I totally get where you're coming from.
Think about the story of Jesus. The story of Jesus is like totally confusing because, Jesus is killed by the Romans, but then rises. They go back to the grave 3 days later. He's gone.
Yeah.
He leaves his robe behind, and he ascends.
Yeah.
And he's the Son of Christ. But the Trinity itself is confusing in Christianity because the Trinity are really one and the same. It's all the same person. The God and the Father are the same entity, but the Father impregnated Mary.
The Virgin Birth.
The Virgin Mary and the Virgin Birth, leaving Joseph, her husband, out of it, in which Jesus technically impregnates his mother, in which he then dies and then is raised to heaven to become one with himself. It's like a very confusing situation. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like, period. It doesn't make any sense. If that's what you believe in, more power to you. I think, when you hear more about, Judaism obviously and Christianity kind of go hand in hand, but you will learn about other religions over time and modern religions as well. Like, they don't jive. But I think what's important about religion is that it's one of the last vanguards, like one of the really important things that have to do with heritage and with culture. And I think that that's kind of important. But I think we need to kind of separate those things and say, the religion might not be literal, but it's a history of where your people have been, and let's look at it in that respect instead. And let's embrace science, and let's embrace technology, and let's embrace rational thought, as opposed to praying to something that might not be there.
Okay. These are the opinions of Colin Moriarty. Ghosts. Religion. You got there in the end. You got to do John. I think you're getting too hung up on the Bible and everything else and the religious text of it all. Not
Why?
Just the fact that I believe in a God and a greater presence and everything else just based on this right now. I mean, like the camera recording us or whatever. This technology that at one point there was this caveman who couldn't do anything, and now there's all this. The fact that there was a spark. Where did it all come from? That's always my thing. And the Big Bang Theory doesn't explain. Well, I don't understand how was there nothing at one point?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of theories about this. I mean, the Big Bang Theory is one thing entirely. I mean, there's a lot of suggestions that there were multiple Big Bangs and that the universe contrasts and expands, and maybe that's true. There's string theory, which suggests that there's many universes.
Yeah.
To me, the fact that there's a camera here, the fact that you and I are sitting here, is an example of something very unique. That isn't likely to happen in many other places, but most certainly has. When you think about the universe mathematically, the universe has been expanding at the speed of light for over 13 billion years. The universe is a very vast place.
Sure, oh yeah.
Very vast.
Yeah.
At the time we've been recording this conversation, it has expanded more than we could possibly imagine. And all of that inertia is from or really that energy, I should say, is from the Big Bang. I mean, that's kind of how we know that the Big Bang happened, that everything started from the center because it is still expanding. So that kind of explains the Big Bang to me. I mean, that's a pretty rational way of looking at it. But at the same time, you know, you can look at theories like the rare earth theory, which suggests that like something that is happening on Earth isn't very likely to happen anywhere else. And so something like this is very unique, very unique. Maybe there's only a few circumstances like this in our galaxy, but then you look at not the galactic picture, but the universal picture, and you realize that there's probably life out there. There's probably very intelligent life out there. And if there is, then that contradicts and basically falsifies all of the major religions.
But again, I'm not getting hung up on the fact of that Jesus had it right, or Judaism has it right, or Hinduism or anything like that. I'm just saying, in general, the presence of a being or something. The fact that I mean, and I think in a way, like you're talking about how it masks ignorance in a way. It's just the fact that I cannot comprehend the universe expanding infinitely. I cannot comprehend how eyes work. I learned about rods and cones and everything else, in school and whatever. I mean, I understand how it's working, but the biology behind that, to take it from a single cell organism to me, is reviewing Oreos on the internet. There's a jump there that I'm missing that I can't understand. And then personally, I mean, on a personal thing, I live a good life. I try to be good. I try to, be a good person, and I feel I'm rewarded for that. You know what I mean? Like, I live a very blessed life. I'm allowed to just be a fat idiot on the internet and get away with it and do whatever, and
Yeah, I would.
And I know that I've worked and I've had those opportunities, and I'm not one of these people who I've sat and prayed for what I got, and that's it's all because of God, or I've been given tools to get where I want and have this motivation. But I could have been born in a family that didn't give me the opportunities. I could have not been supported. I could have been this. The fact that I've been so blessed makes me think, makes me believe in something good, rewarding me for being a good person.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, there are certain things in the universe that happen, just universal constants, basically, that make you believe that there's some governance. And that's what I was saying. Like, I'm kind of a deist in the sense that I'm not an atheist. In the sense that, like, I don't believe in anything at all. But the way we look at God as a human species is not the way I think God exists. I think that, like, when you look at something like gravity or, electromagnetism or something like that, like, these are universal constants that are just there everywhere. And, like, there's some rule set to the universe that makes sense. And I agree with you that there's, like, great things that happen to us, and that we seem to be rewarded for good behavior and things of this nature. And I've always tried to separate religion from morality, and in the sense that I live a very moral life. I say please and thank you. I'm respectful to people. I pay it forward. I always say I'm blessed, even though I don't mean it in the religious sense. I'm very thankful for what the situations I've been put in, and that I've taken the bulls by the horn, and bull by the horns. Bull by the horn, I guess.
Yeah, whatever. You've been riding bulls.
There's bulls and there's horns, I guess. But at the same time, you could explain the rise of life from a single cell organism scientifically.
Sure.
And a lot of it has to do, if you study the Goldilocks zone around a star, if you believe in something like, the certain mixture of elements being present in a very specific planet with a very specific atmosphere at a very specific time. These kinds of things happen, and it just, to me, I don't think we look at the fact that, like, Earth might not be blessed, there might not have any religion to do with it, might not have any God to do with it, but rather that we're just one of those very few places where something like this can happen. And I think that for us to kind of unshackle ourselves from that kind of thought process, the result of doing that will be something even greater, that we'll be able to realize our potential fully as humans. Because you say you can't wrap your mind around these things, and I can't wrap my mind. I read a lot of stuff about this, a lot about this stuff, and I'm fascinated by it. And I'm in no way fluent in physics. I'm in no way fluent in calculus. But the more you read about it, the more you appreciate it. And I think,
and I want to put out there, I totally appreciate it, and I understand again I understand how an eye works. But I'm just saying that the science behind it is so complex that I can't imagine getting back to a source where there wasn't something. You know what I mean? There wasn't something. And that's what I can get to, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm getting back and Jesus is there clicking his finger and this is what's happening. You know what I mean? But it's just the way that there's got to have been something for everything to have happened to be blessed in the way we're both using blessed to get to this point to where we're wearing these shirts and seeing these things and tasting, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I like I said earlier, like I hope you're right. I hope people like you and even people like my father and other religious people, or people that see things in a more romantic way, I guess I'll say. I hope they're right. I hope you're right, because I think that's awesome if that were the case. I think that'd be really cool, but all the evidence points against it. In my opinion, like you have to be intellectually honest with yourself sometimes and just look around and think about it and say, like, man, like this situation is dynamic and it's complicated, and I can't believe this is happening and can end like that. And we've seen situations on this very planet where life has been nullified and new life has risen and stuff like that, and those things happen. But I don't think that's the case. And while we are way off topic with ghosts,
it's a conversation with Colin. We go where we want to go.
I'll just say, like, you know, it's a complicated issue. It's a multifaceted issue, and it's one of the things I'm most fascinated about personally. I just love reading about that kind of stuff and reading about you know, evolution and you know, just astronomy and kind of even paleoastronomy in the way that we used to look at things in the sky, and how we've evolved or whatever, how we continue to evolve, and how we're evolving so rapidly now. And that's like one of the most fascinating things. And I just don't think there's a higher power that has anything to do with that. I think it's like pushing a rolling stone down the side of a hill, and it's just gaining steam. And so we're just evolving so quickly and getting places so quickly now. And I think we're going to have, you know, if we don't kill ourselves first, if we don't extinguish ourselves first, which is totally possible, I think that we're going to have answers to a lot of these questions eventually. Yeah. And that's pretty exciting. We're not going to be alive for it, but, you know, hopefully our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, something will be alive to get some of the answers to these questions and find definitively. And like I said, if we can find definitive evidence of there being a God, that would be pretty wild.
Yeah, you never will.
Well, then, if there's no evidence for it, then it can't scientifically be proven, and so I don't believe.
Okay. We're saying we don't believe in ghosts. You want to believe in ghosts, but we don't believe in ghosts.
I want to believe in ghosts.
To get back to Andrew Duron's question.
Yeah, I want to believe in ghosts. And I would like to think that they're ghosts, but it relates down to this religious
I'm a big fan of the Paranormal Activity movies, so I hope there aren't ghosts, because I don't want that happening to me. That was always a big fear. I used to read like the, you know, true stories about ghosts, but I was afraid by reading them. I was kind of talking shit to them.
Yeah,
they never showed up.
Well, hopefully they don't show up now, because I've been saying, like, I hope they exist.
Well, we got Portillo around here, so we'll be all right.
He'll take care of it.
Yeah, all right. Well, what do you think about ghosts, religion, or any of the other 20 minutes you've just watched on YouTube? Let us know in the comments below, then share the video with your friends so they can be part of the conversation. Also, like it, subscribe. You know the drill. It's YouTube. You've done this once or twice. We'll be back every Tuesday and Thursday with a new conversation from the Random Topic Pile. Until then, have a conversational day.
So, like, most cats, like, are very, you know, they figure it out very early. They dig
like
and they clean
it.
it.
Cats, yeah.
But, like, she just shits right on top of the litter and then just bounces.